how are you? This is Rosa Maria de la Peña speaking from Monitor Ciudadano or Citizens Monitor. Today is June the 29th and we are about to hold elections in Mexico. This July the 1st, Mexico is going to have an important election journey. It is a presidential election and a general Congress election for 128 senators and 500 congressmen too. And we are changing some local governments, among them, Jalisco and Guanajuato in the west, Chiapas, Tabasco and Yucatan in the southeast, and Morelos and the Federal District in the center of Mexico, which is one of the most populated areas in the country. Everything is set for the polls. Since the year 2000, the Federal Electoral Institute has organized 3 elections under the highest standards of electoral organization to prevent any malpractice. The Institute decisions are taken only by the vote of citizen councilors and not by the parties, which do not vote, but they do participate with their voice in every previous debate. On the election day, the highest authorities are citizens conducting the election in the poll stations, under the supervision of the party representatives, the votes are received and counted. These citizens, authorities for the poll stations, are appointed randomly by alphabetical letters and are not paid officials. For instance, I am proudly going to be president of my station poll because for this particular election, letters D and T of the alphabet were designated, coming from a draw which prevents any political bias. Elections in Mexico tend now to be very competitive and very close in results because our law establishes equal rights and opportunities for political competition. 90% of the money used by Mexican candidates and parties come from public money. Publicity and propaganda are guaranteed for every candidate. Every candidate should be happy in Mexico, but unfortunately, there is one. The leftist candidate, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who is announcing a huge fraud in the presidential election, but only in the presidential election. He is not foreseeing any fraud for the Congress or the local governments which are going to be elected because his friends and colleagues in the party or in the parties which are supporting him wouldn't agree with that because there's going to be a lot of posts won by his colleagues, his party companions. Well, he did the same way last election back in 2006 when he lost only by 0.53%. I know this was a very narrow margin, but anyone who has examined the way the IFE, the Instituto Federal Electoral or Federal Electoral Institute is organized in Mexico will learn that there is no way to perform a generalized fraud. There could be some attempts here and there, and I'm sure there will be complaints. But Andrés Manuel López Obrador, everyone has seen that, he used every opportunity in his campaign to make believe his followers that an electoral fraud was being prepared unless he wins. Of course, in those places where his parties will win, for instance, in the DF, where his party has over 60% of the electoral preference, according to the polls, he is not preventing about any fraud. Yesterday, a commitment to accept electoral results was signed among all the candidates, including Andrés Manuel. But the problem is that Andrés Manuel has disqualified the presidential election since the beginning of his campaign. I hope it won't happen again, but it could, according to what happened back in 2006 when Andrés Manuel blocked Paseo de la Reforma, a very busy main avenue in the DF, for more than 8 months, causing a huge trouble with the help of the local government, which is held by his party and followers. So in Mexico, most of the people, but Andrés Manuel López Obrador followers, know that the IFE, the Instituto Federal Electoral, is trustworthy. But we are all afraid that in a very unjustified manner, our election, which we know is held by the best electoral organization of our history, and I know one of the best in the world, the IFE is already disqualified. Well, see you next time in Monitor Ciudadano.